There's a storm brewing in the entertainment world, and it's got everything: a legendary comedian, a rising star, and one of Disney's most iconic princesses caught in the crossfire. Rogan has unleashed a ferocious tirade against Rachel Zegler after she let loose on South Park for mocking the new Snow White.
I keep having the same dream. Everywhere I look, people are being replaced. The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway. And that's when I started to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. Why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?
One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special.
The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway. And that's when I started to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?
And it doesn't stop there, because rumor has it this fiery feud is part of the reason why Snow White stumbled into a humiliating box office disaster last week. Right now, fans are either rallying behind the unapologetic Rogan or siding with Zegler's righteous anger, and no one can escape the tension crackling across social media feeds. At first glance, this sounds like a straightforward celebrity spat. A no-filter commentator tears into an up-and-coming actress who can't stand being ridiculed. But beneath that surface-level drama, there's a flurry of accusations, Hollywood secrets, and signs that the film's downfall may be only the beginning.
She was, as woke as they are.
The star, Rachel Zegler, is unbelievably charmless in public.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
People are calling it Disney's biggest embarrassment in years. And whether that's an exaggeration or not, the rumor swirling around the meltdown is impossible to ignore. This is about more than just a comedic jab. Some say it's about preserving tradition, respecting iconic material, and questioning if certain stars might be pushing too far.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
I don't think they're gonna buy it. I don't think they're gonna watch it. I don't think they're gonna like it.
She just sounds bitter and angry.
Strap in, because this story's about to burst wide open. But hold on tight. You won't believe how explosive it gets once Joe Rogan's alleged takedown of Rachel Zegler takes center stage. Rachel Zegler soared into the limelight with her star-making performance in West Side Story, instantly hailed.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion. But the reality is she's just not stable, like the majority of people in Hollywood. They're just not stable human beings. I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow.
As the next big thing. She seemed destined for the A-list, a powerhouse voice, a magnetic presence, and that youthful spark Hollywood adores. Yet for every wave of praise, she's also been at the heart of some serious controversies. Many credit her brazen honesty for drawing both fans and critics. She doesn't hide her opinion, she wears it on her sleeve, even when it risks offending an entire fandom. If it's on her mind, she'll say it, sometimes with zero sugarcoating. That boldness made her a prime target when casting news broke that she'd play Snow White in Disney's next live-action film.
For the set that are apple flavored, and that hurts my feelings.
I was gonna say,
it's like they don't know what happens to me. There's gonna be so many stories that come from the set about how difficult I am to work with simply because I don't want apple.
Exactly what they're doing, and that is why we hate the diversity, equity, and inclusion casting and writing in movies.
Suddenly, her offhand remarks about older fairy tales felt like a direct challenge to nostalgic fans. Critics pounced, accusing her of disrespecting the Disney legacy. And like clockwork, the internet caught fire, fueling a bitter debate. Was she championing progressive storytelling, or was she just stirring drama for headlines? Either way, Zegler doubled down. She insisted it was time for an updated perspective on the fabled princess, and she refused to backtrack on any statements that made fans uneasy.
Snow White is the first American feature-length animated movie, 1937. It's one of the most beloved movies of all time. Even if everything worked perfectly, it would have been almost impossible for this movie to succeed, because you're comparing it to one of the most beloved films of all time and a truly groundbreaking movie.
Rights are on the line, folks.
Bitch! The right to buy Cosby sweaters?
Come on.
That's the face of a serial killer.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
This unwavering drive to speak her mind paved the way for the meltdown that would come when South Park took its own comedic shot at the new Snow White. People claim Zegler's immediate reaction was more than just offended. She was outraged, venting that mocking a film still in its early hype cycle was a cheap shot. Critics would call her sensitive. Supporters would call her brave.
She's my best friend, and she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, "Thank me when you're famous." It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere, and she's the best ever. But yeah, I put myself on tape. It's the worst tape you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea how I got the part still, and it's being used to teach future casting directors at NYU.
What was it like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag?
I love that description. It's perfect. Oh my God, well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker.
But that's where Joe Rogan allegedly stepped in, flipping the narrative to a whole new level. And speaking of flipping narratives, wait until you hear how Joe Rogan took that rage and turned it into a full-blown spectacle. Joe Rogan is no stranger to controversy. If anything, he's built an empire on dissecting pop culture, challenging sacred cows, and never holding back. His blunt opinions. So the moment Rachel Zegler's anger hit the headlines, he allegedly zeroed in, calling out what he viewed as an overly fragile attitude toward comedic satire. Word on the street is that Rogan laid into Zegler's stance on the cartoon's parody with a fiery tirade, labeling her reaction everything from tone-deaf to egotistical. Some of these alleged comments have circulated on social platforms, sparking an immediate frenzy among fans. Rogan, with his millions of listeners, can shape public opinion in one swift blow. In the eyes of Zegler's defenders, his criticism was unwarranted and aggressively personal, another attempt by an industry juggernaut to diminish a rising star's voice. But from Rogan's perspective, it's rumored that he saw Zegler's meltdown over a cartoon as prime evidence of Hollywood's thin skin. The mainstream reaction to Rogan's remarks wasn't exactly hush-hush. His fans cheered him on for exposing a starlet who, they claim, can't handle a joke. Others, especially fans of Zegler, screamed that Rogan crossed a line, intensifying a hate campaign against her. The more people talked, the deeper the tension grew. With every tweet, every comment, the rumor mill churned faster, linking the meltdown directly to the bigger story: Disney's potential fiasco with Snow White. South Park has a legendary track record. From celebrities to political figures, nobody escapes their scorching brand of satire. This time, the show decided to poke fun at the new Snow White adaptation, playing up all the controversies swirling around Rachel Zegler and the reported rewriting of the classic princess story. Their depiction wasn't mild by any stretch. Tongue firmly in cheek, they presented an exaggerated version of Zegler that ranted about outdated fairy tales, as if wagging a finger at the entire concept of old-school Disney magic. Fans of the series ate it up. They've always loved how South Park's creators take no prisoners. But apparently, Zegler saw it differently. Insiders claim she fumed about being ridiculed in a show that thrives on irreverence. Whether you think that's justified or not, one thing is certain: her frustration gave oxygen to an already roaring scandal. Online trolls latched on, doubling down with memes and more jokes at her expense. Zegler's supporters rushed to her side, defending her right to push for modern representation. Where things took a turn was how quickly the storyline went beyond typical comedic ribbing. The rumor is that Zegler felt singled out, as if the show had orchestrated a smear campaign. This idea may sound far-fetched, but it resonated with those who felt the star was being unfairly villainized. That's exactly when the spotlight swung to Joe Rogan, whose reaction to Zegler's meltdown seemingly validated South Park's depiction. The chatter soared, the box office figures looked shaky, and everyone wondered if this was the beginning of a cinematic collapse. And collapse is exactly where we're heading, because up next is the rumored box office apocalypse that tied this drama together. Last week, reports flooded the internet that Snow White suffered a staggering blow at the box office. Industry watchers labeled it a potential catastrophe for Disney, a studio famed for its near-guaranteed hits. Whispers of low turnout, audience disinterest, and a borderline humiliating opening made headlines. Shocked critics asked, how does a beloved Disney property flop so spectacularly, especially when fronted by an actress once hailed as the next big thing? Some point fingers directly at Rachel Zegler's public comments. They argue that her divisive remarks about revamping classic fairy tales alienated nostalgic fans. Others place equal blame on Joe Rogan's alleged rants, speculating that negative publicity pushed fence-sitters away. A few bold commentators suggest the script or production simply lacked the spark that makes Disney remakes a sure bet. Regardless of the cause, the meltdown turned the once promising film into a hotbed of controversy, overshadowing any genuine attempts at praising the cast's performances or the visuals. But what about the fans who did see it? Some say the film wasn't half bad, while others say it was hopelessly misguided. Audiences commented on the bizarre updates to the original story, questioning if Disney had lost its magic. And in the center of the chaos, there stood Rachel Zegler, pinned under the weight of blame. The rumor swirling around Joe Rogan's destruction of her image only fueled the narrative that the film's flop was about more than just a weak script. It was about public perception, relentless internet chatter, and the unstoppable power of celebrity disputes. But the blame game doesn't end there. Next, you'll see how fans turn this fiasco into a full-blown war of divided loyalties. On one side, there's a legion claiming Zegler got what was coming to her, an actress who disrespected a cherished Disney classic now facing backlash she stirred up. They praised Joe Rogan for calling her out, insisting that she's precisely what's wrong with Hollywood's obsession over political correctness and constant reboots. Memes referencing Zegler's thin skin and unearned self-importance plaster social media. Comments range from snarky jokes to outright condemnation, with many celebrating the film's flop as a cautionary tale against tampering too boldly with beloved stories. On the other side, the I Stand With Rachel crowd sees Zegler as a bold voice being systematically torn down by powerful critics and hate-driven fans. They argue that these so-called fragile attitudes are simply stances of progress, and that her outspokenness about wanting a modern take on Snow White is exactly what storytelling needs. They call Joe Rogan's criticisms a cheap potshot, furthering a toxic environment that thrives on belittling younger artists. In this corner, the conversation is about defending creative freedom against an unflinching wave of vitriol. As these factions duke it out across YouTube comment sections, Twitter threads, and Reddit forums, the film's disastrous performance hangs overhead like a hammer. Some wonder if the meltdown might have been avoided if the movie's star had stayed silent, or if comedic parodies had toned down the sting. But with so many big voices egging the fight on, Rogan included, the conflict seems unstoppable. And that's not all, because rumor has it more celebrities are quietly picking sides, fueling speculation behind the scenes. But if you think these feuds are done, get ready, because the rumor mill just kicked into overdrive with new insider talk. Suddenly, blind gossip sites started lighting up with cryptic hints about a rising starlet who allegedly angered major studio executives with her outspoken ways. Many are convinced these hints point to Rachel Zegler. Another rumor claims that at least one well-known celebrity is urging Disney to distance itself from any future controversies, even if it means sidelining certain cast members in upcoming projects. The speculation is relentless, weaving a narrative that the Snow White fiasco has caused seismic tension behind closed doors at the House of Mouse. Social media sleuths love connecting the dots. They point to cryptic tweets from Disney personnel about respecting the fans, suspicious scheduling changes, and hush-hush reshoots. Meanwhile, some claim that Joe Rogan's so-called destruction of Zegler was bigger than anyone realizes, cementing a public perception that might be nearly impossible to undo. If these rumors are accurate, the meltdown extends far beyond a single box office bomb. It threatens to redefine how studios handle big-name controversies in an era where every statement can be recorded, shared, and magnified by the internet. But a handful of insiders push back on these narratives, labeling them sensational and hollow. They insist that arguments come and go, that the public has a short memory, and that eventually a winning performance can overshadow any rumor. Regardless of which version you believe, one fact remains. This story touched a raw nerve in Hollywood. It's about tradition versus innovation, comedic freedom versus respect, and how one star's words can shape an entire film's fate. And just when you think you've heard it all, brace yourself for the final twist that will leave you questioning everything. While the Snow White box office meltdown might be the immediate headline, the long-term fallout has potentially bigger implications. If Rachel Zegler finds herself sidelined by studios wary of controversy, it could reshape her career trajectory in shocking ways. But others argue that her willingness to confront comedic jabs signals a new era of outspoken Hollywood talent who won't back down. That makes her a polarizing figure. A potential hero for those who hate the old system, or a cautionary tale for those who see a star talking too much, too soon. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's alleged takedown bolsters his reputation as a cultural fire starter, Love him or hate him, he's proven once again that his voice can rattle even the biggest of names. Some watchers believe he's unstoppable, playing the role of a modern-day court jester who isn't afraid to mock the powerful. Yet critics say his brand of combative commentary only escalates negativity, especially when people interpret his words as permission to attack artists online. As for Disney, the fiasco around Snow White might trigger a deeper reevaluation of how they approach live-action remakes. With critics blasting the constant reboots and fans demanding new stories instead, it's possible that the meltdown, along with all the drama swirling around it, could push the studio in a new creative direction. Or they might double down, continuing to bank on the brand power of old fairy tales, drama, and all. After all, controversy can be a marketing tool, just not the kind any studio dreams of. But don't walk away yet, because the final word on this fiasco carries a message you'll never forget. Joe Rogan's alleged onslaught against Rachel Zegler sparked a chain reaction, one that collided with the already imploding Snow White at the box office. What began as a comedic riff from South Park morphed into a cultural battleground, where tradition battled modern ideals, and no side came out unscathed. Some hail Rogan as the truth teller, the fearless commentator who said what others wouldn't. Others condemn him, viewing Zegler as a courageous figure who dared to question outdated norms but got burned by it. Whatever side you're on, there's no doubt that this story cuts deep. It's not just about a single actress, a single commentator, or even a single film. It's a mirror reflecting Hollywood's shifting power dynamics. As studios chase old glories and fresh controversies, public opinion is fiercer and more divided than ever. The rumored meltdown of Snow White stands as a warning. No amount of star power or brand legacy can guarantee success if fans feel alienated. And when you throw in a juggernaut like Joe Rogan, the storm only intensifies. In the end, one question hangs in the air. After all the dust settles, will Hollywood learn from this fiasco, or will they charge ahead with more bold statements, more reboots, and more feuds that captivate and perhaps repel audiences? That's for you to decide. But one thing's for sure, with tension this hot and opinions this strong, we haven't seen the last of the battles over beloved fairy tales or the larger-than-life personas fighting to tell them.